Just make sure my sound is right. We are live and direct. Let's see something here. Now, I'm going to turn that off. Turn that on. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. What's up? I'm not sure how I feel about that, so I'm going to leave that alone. Nah, I don't like that. See something here. I don't even know what that means. Camera's off. What's up, y'all? What's up? Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to the show. Of course, we're just going to give some people some time to get up in here, and so we can have this conversation, this story. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Let me see what this is all about. What is that? Shows uploaded to your channel as listed. Okay, I don't know what that means. All right. Do the chat filter. Top messages, all messages. Boom. All right. Shout out to Africa Ananas, who is in here tonight. Welcome to tonight's live broadcast. Urban Exegesis Studios, and we're talking about Not Without My Daughter. A lot of things happening in the news, and we're going to talk about this very inspiring story. This very inspiring story that comes to us by way of Iran. And so let me give some people some time to get up in here. Of course, we're going to set it off as we always do. But welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know who you are, where you're from once you get in. And please go ahead and share this on your platforms. Go ahead and share this on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on your TikTok, on your X, on your YouTube, wherever it is that you have product or your platforms. I want you to go ahead and share this as we talk about it tonight. Of course, please consider subscribing to the channel, sharing the content, hitting that like button, smash the like button. You know, that'd be the first thing I ask you to do as you come in. Smash the like button. As tonight, we're going to be talking about some history tonight, some real history, but that history is wrapped around community, right? Community. So let me know if you could hear me okay and if you could see me okay. Let me know if you could hear me and if you could see me. Of course, all the chat is opened. I would ask that you be respectful in what you're saying. And of course, we can agree to disagree. That's what that's what this is about. So again, want to welcome people as they start making their way into the program tonight. We're talking about Not Without My Daughter. And just in case you have never ever seen the movie, if you have never ever read the book, let me encourage you to do that. Be active. What is up, my man? This is going to be a very, very inspirational show tonight. It's going to be a very historical show tonight. Buona Peace family, what's up? Of course, again, let me encourage you, smash that like button. Consider supporting the channel if you can by super chat and super thanks, but also if you can support it through PayPal. Another way to support is joining channel membership for those exclusives that we put out every once in a while. And we're working on really pushing out more exclusives for channel members. So let me encourage you. There are 2 tiers to channel membership that are going to help us. So if you agree with this content, if you like this content, if you think this content is beneficial, if it's helpful, I want to encourage you to join channel membership. Okay, there are 2 tiers, and you can click the join, and it'll tell you what those tiers are and what you get. With that, we want to start doing. We're actually waiting for more people to join channel membership so that way we can really do some members only live streams, some members only chats, but we want to get it to a certain level. Okay. But again, once again, just appreciate everybody in here. Yesterday, we had a lively discussion on the LA riots. And tonight, we're going to talk about some more history. Right. It lends and speaks to the very idea of this divide that humanity has, right? This divide that humanity has. You don't have to worry. This is not a church program tonight. We're not talking about the Bible tonight. We're talking about a very real story that happened as we talk about the conditions that are happening in our world with the current war with Israel and Iran. All right. And so the story that we're going to be talking about tonight has to do with Iran. And you know, it's a sad story. It's an inspirational story. It's a story of courage. It's a story of hope. It's a story of community. It's a story of deception, all the makings for a great movie. And in fact, they did make this into a major motion picture. Okay. And so, but again, man, thank you guys for tuning in as always. So go ahead and share this on your platforms right now. Let people know that Dr. Derrick Colon is live. We are in here. We are in here. Thank you, Mr. Stepper. I appreciate you being with me. So we're in here tonight. So go ahead and share this on your platforms. All right. Don't forget, smash that like button. And just let everybody know that we are live. I am Dr. Derrick Colon, and most of you know me from the hip hop channel, which is this is the same channel, Urban Exegesis Studios. Welcome, JG. I see JG is in the building. JG, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know, go on your platforms and let everybody know that Dr. Colon is once again going to speak on some of this history, okay, on some of this history. And tonight we are talking about a very pivotal historical event that happened as we deal with what's happening in our world with Israel and Iran. Last night we talked about the whole idea of the LA riots, right? Like our world is going bonkers. Our world is going pretty bonkers right now. But anyway, we're here, and I want to welcome everybody to the platform. Coming up soon, not tonight, but soon and very soon, we are going to be doing a live stream talking about the Ghetto Brothers and their whole story. We're going to talk about their story, the Ghetto Brothers. All right. but yeah, so if you don't know about the story that we're going to talk about tonight, you want to stay tuned, right? And let everybody know that this is going to be a very, very inspirational story. um and so, I encourage you. Many people saw the movie called Not Without My Daughter. um this is the book. I have the book right here. It's called Not Without My Daughter. This is an absolute true story. And of course, you know that the book is always better than the movie, always better than the movie. So, this is the story of the mother and the daughter. But then the daughter herself also wrote a book. And I'm jumping ahead of myself. We got to get into the story. But I just want to welcome everybody that's coming in. Mr. Stepper, what's up? What's up? What's up? Regular, I see you. I want y'all to do me a favor. I want y'all, before we even get started, I want y'all to go ahead and I want you to please share this on your platforms. Let everybody know that Dr. Colon is here. Also, I want you to smash that like button. Hit that like button. Let me get some hundreds. Let me get some hearts going on. Also, please consider supporting the channel with Super Chat and with Super Thanks as well as PayPal. But also, thank you for just tuning in and sharing the content, right? This channel has so much great content. We can't say enough about the Latin Breakdown documentary. We have the first documentary that we did that was called Hip Hop is from the Bronx. And so all of that stuff is there, just some great stuff. But tonight is another story as we talk about some real history that is happening right before our eyes. So, welcome to everybody in the chat. Everybody in the chat. So, let's get it, right? As many of us know, we got this situation that's happening between Israel and Iran. Now, I want to say this right from the jump tonight. This is not a political live. We're not talking about politics. We're not even talking about the war. But we are going to talk about some things that have already happened in the country of Iran. All right. And so we want to take it back. Want to take it back a little bit, right? And for those of you that are history students, those of you that are historians, I want you to just trek with me. I want you to just take your time, sit back, and just trek with me. I'm gonna take my time tonight to unfold this story, right? So it was many, many years ago where there was an initial conflict between the country of Iran and the country of Iraq. Okay, so we had the two superpowers, if you will. We had the Ayatollah Khomeini on one side, and then you had Saddam Hussein on the other side, right? Now, before this happens, you have to understand that the Shah of Iran was he they there was a coup that took place, right? And the Shah of Iran took over Iran, and there was this great these great issues that started to happen in the country, and a great movie that you could watch to get a little bit of a better understanding of what that was like is a movie that's called Argo. Argo. It's directed by Ben Affleck. Okay, and so this shows the Shah of Iran, and eventually they they want to remove him from power, and they bring back the exiled cleric by the name of Ayatollah Khomeini. And they bring him back. The Shah of Iran is extradited to the United States. He's fighting cancer. And so, what ends up happening, and this is during the time of Jimmy Carter's presidency, when Jimmy Carter was the president, the United States, some United States citizens were held hostage in Iran. And what they wanted was they wanted the Shah brought back to Iran to stand trial. Okay. And so there's this constant, there was this turmoil in the country, right? And so fast forward, we have this situation that we have now, but the story of Not Without My Daughter kind of takes place during the war between Iran and Iraq. Okay. And it's a story of a typical family. I want to take you through that story a little bit and sort of piece together what it is we're talking about. Don't forget, smash that like button and let everybody know that we are live tonight. Right? As you know, the world is not all made up of hip hop. We can talk about other things. And tonight's topic is going to be a beautiful topic. And so we got this situation that's happening in Iran, right? Ayatollah Khomeini is the the cleric of the country. He's the leader of the country. He's a religious man. And in the state of Michigan, there is a family, and the family, their names are the Mahmoudis. And so you have the husband whose name is Moody or Mahmoud. His wife's name was Betty, and they had a little daughter by the name of Matab. And so Mahmoud, his ancestry is Iranian. Okay, but he's been in the country in America for 20 years. He is a successful doctor in Michigan. You know, they are living the life. They are living the life in Michigan. But at the same time, he's hearing about the conflict that is happening in his native land. Okay. And deep down, he wants to be there to support. Now, you know, he had been getting phone calls from his family. He hadn't seen his family in some 10 years, right? And so, he keeps getting these phone calls from the family. And once again, you can watch this in the movie Not Without My Daughter. But as many of you know, the better version is always going to be the book, because the book really opens up the full story. The movie can't cover everything. The book does. And again, I'm holding the book in my hand right here. As you can see, it's a pretty thick book, and this is a fantastic read, Not Without My Daughter. So anyway, he's getting calls from his sister who is back home. And she is known as Ahmed Bazorg. And she wants him to come home. And so he's starting to feel guilty. And he goes to his wife and he tells his wife, Betty, why can't we take a vacation and go to visit my family? Now Betty she's not feeling that. She's not into it because of the war, because of the conflict that's happening in Iran. And she's like, we can't go over there. We can't take our daughter over there. And he's like, listen, we're just going for 2 weeks to spend 2 weeks with my family, right? Nothing's going to happen to you, I promise. After 2 weeks, we're going to come back home, right? So she really has some reservations about this. She really feels like deep down inside, she doesn't want to do this. But he's persistent in this wanting to bring his family to meet, his wife and daughter to meet his family in Iran. And eventually, Betty agrees to go. And it's really when they are on the plane, right, getting ready to touch down in Tehran, that she starts to get this feeling of, what did I just do? Like, why did I agree to this? Knowing, number one, there's a couple of things going on. Number one, the people of Iran at that time, and let me just say this, not all of the people of Iran, but certain people within Iran did not like America. Okay? And I want to preface this whole story by saying that this is not a judgment against the people of Iran, the great Iranian people. This is not that. We are telling a story about a family and something that they went through. Okay, so she knows this about the people that, live in that country. And anyway, so they get off the plane, they meet the family, they get back home, they get to the house, right? And she's going through a culture shock, as well as her husband, Moody, who's going through a culture shock, right? Because he hadn't been there in all these years. Everything has changed. It was known as the revolution. Okay, so the women were covered in what was known as a chador. Okay, there were demonstrations in the streets, right? You hear the call to prayer from the minarets, and all of these things. Everywhere they looked, they saw the pictures of the Ayatollah Khomeini, right? So it was quite a culture shock for Betty, at least. Matab, a little girl, she's just meeting her new family. She's everything seems normal, right? They're having a good time. They're meeting the family. But one of the things that Betty starts to notice is she starts to notice Moody's family. Mahmoud, they called him Moody. Moody's family, the husband, she starts to notice that his family is always on top of him, always yelling at him, always arguing with him, always on him. And she can't figure out what the problem is, right? And you know, there was a time, and they show this within the movie, and they also speak about this within the book, that as they are having dinner, now, um, Moody's family was a very uh, ultra religious family. They would be classified what we would call fanatics, right? So they got rid of all the furniture in the house. They sat on the floor to eat. It was just, they did not want to identify with Western society. And so they're having dinner at one point in the vacation. And I think the daughter was laughing while they were having dinner. And Betty was trying to calm her down. And Moody's sister, Ahmed Bazorg, did not like Betty, for the simple reason that Betty was American. And again, in their minds, Americans were the great Satan. Americans were, the enemy. Even if these Americans didn't do anything, okay, smash that like button, share this content, let everybody know what we're talking about. And so as they're sitting around his sister gives Betty this look of disdain, this look of hate. And so after dinner, she goes and she talks with her husband, and she says, I don't understand why she gave me that look. And he said, you're reading into it wrong. It wasn't she wasn't looking at you. And this is when she brought up the fact that I noticed that all the men in your family, they're always on top of you. They're always yelling at you. They're always screaming at you. What's that about? And he said, well, because they feel like I became Americanized in America and that I have an American wife, right? And so she's apologizing, right? And he said, no, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You know, give it time. Eventually, they're going to learn to love you and all this. Now, as this vacation is going on, they're going to the bazaar. They're traveling. They're buying gifts, and little did Betty realize. Little did Betty realize that on top of the family always getting at Moody, there was another sinister plan that was being put in place that Betty would not know about until sometime later. And so, you know, the time comes for them to finally go back home. And, right before this happens, though, right before they're scheduled to leave, her husband approaches her and tells her. Now, again, this is in the movie, but this is also in the book, and this has been testified by her, by Betty, and by the daughter. The daughter is still alive. Betty is no longer alive. And Moody tells Betty that he lost his job at the hospital a couple of days before they were scheduled to come to Iran. And she said, why didn't you tell me? And he said, well, we were coming here. I didn't want to, disturb this. But see, there was a plot going on. There was a plot happening. And little did she know. So the time comes for them she's packing up. It's the morning of them getting ready to go back to America. She's packing up her bags. And she notices that her husband is not packing anything. And she asks him, hey, do you want me to help you pack? And he says, no, 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 no. And he's still trying to keep up the charade. He tells her, they're not going to let this carpet go through. So we're going to have to mail this at another time. And as he's saying this, one of the relatives walks into the room. And he says to Moody in Persian that the passports needed to be brought to the airport 3 days before they were scheduled to leave. And then he turns to Betty and he tells her, you cannot leave today. The passports needed to be cleared 3 days ago. And she says, well, when can we leave? And he says, I don't know. And this relative leaves. This relative's name was Mamal. And so she looks at Moody, her husband, and she says, what is this? How could you not take care of these passports? And he said, well, everything, it just slipped my mind. We weren't thinking about it. And she says, well, I'll tell you what. We're going to go to the airport. We're going to sit in the airport, and we're going to explain to them what happened, and maybe they'll let us get on the plane. And he turns to her, and he says these words. I don't know how to tell you this, but we're not going home. We're staying in Iran. And she says, what do you mean? For how long? And he says, I want to get a job here. I want to help the people here that are going through this war. Now, the book really brings out his allegiance to the war effort. The movie really doesn't. The book really shows he was really torn by being an American and being an Iranian who wanted to support his Iranian cause, but also understood he loved and had an American wife and an American daughter and American friends, right? So she tells him, she says, we can't live here. And he says, why not? He said, we can't live here. This is this country. Now again, these are her words. This country is in her words, this country is backwards. This country, it went back into the Stone Ages. Like there's no tech, there's nothing here. Everything went backwards. Like you can't possibly ask me to raise my daughter here. Your daughter's an American. We're Americans. And he said, I know that it will work out if you would just give it a chance. And he said, I want to raise Matab as a Muslim. And I want her to learn real values here. And Betty just snaps. And she goes off on him. You can't make us stay here. We're not staying here. And he turns quick. And the book really points out what he turned into. He turned into somebody that she had never, ever seen in her life. And the movie shows him slapping her, throwing her on the bed, and telling her, you're in my country now. You're going to do what I say. Now, the book, again, is more graphic than that, as Betty recalls it, and as the daughter recalls it. The daughter is sitting right there when this happens. So he does that, and he leaves the room. And Betty does not know what to do with herself. She's blown away as he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So a little bit later on in the evening, she decides to go down and to have dinner with the family and help the family understand how she feels. She'd been in that room crying the whole time. So they don't speak English. A couple of them do. And she asks one of them, she asks Mamal to please translate. And she just wants the family to understand that she loved the fact that she came to visit, that she wanted to meet them, that she loved the country, but she just couldn't live here. She had a home in America. And Mamal translated this, and one of the things that Moody did before they left was he swore on the Quran that they would be back in two weeks. And so she brings this up to the the head of the family, whose name was Baba Hajj, right? Baba Hajj was somebody who made pilgrimage to Mecca. He was the husband of Ahmed Bezorg. And Baba Hajj is sitting there, very quiet man, from what the book displays, very quiet man, very soft-spoken man. And she's pleading with him, and he doesn't speak English. So she's begging him to please don't let him do this to us. And the whole family literally just flips on her. And they start to say things to her and to basically humiliate her as an American. So she grabs her daughter, they run back into the room, and she is now a prisoner in this house. Now, let me preface this by saying, this is not a charge against Iranians as a whole. We're talking about this particular family that are prisoners in this home. And she's trying to get her husband to understand, to resist the pressure that the family has put on him, right? They made him feel guilty for leaving Iran, for leaving the revolution, for not being there. So now he's totally turning, as he should be. He is Iranian. There's no doubt about that. He should not hide his culture. That's who he is. But he started to shift on his wife. And so now he starts to create these rules. Hit that like button, share this content, let everybody know what we're talking about, please. So he starts to create these rules within this household. And these were rules within the Iranian society, right? No woman was allowed to leave the house unless they had a pass. Again, basing it around what the movie showed and what was written in the book and what the daughter also witnessed herself. She saw these passes. And so he started to talk to Betty in a very disrespectful way. You don't leave this house, you don't use the phone, and if you want to leave, I'm going to tell you when you need to be back. And she could not recognize her husband. This was not the man that she married. This was not the man that she fell in love with. Okay. So at a certain point, she is trying to contact her mother to see if her mother can get some help. Now, there is no, apparently, there was no American embassy in Iran at that time. There was an interest section, I believe, of the Swiss embassy that was there. So she's trying to call her mother in secret because everybody in the family is watching her every move and they will tell him. So she's on the phone. And she's talking to her mother, and her mother tells her, contact this interest section and get in touch with them. And he sees her and he grabs the phone. And he tells the mother, don't call here, and she's not going to talk to you anymore. And he hangs up the phone. Like he cut off all communication with her family, right? Look, this is wrong. But he cuts off communication. So she decides that she is going to go to this place. She remembered the mother right before he grabbed the phone. The mother gave her the address, and she's kind of repeating it in her head to remember it. And she tells Matab, we're going to go there. If daddy asks you, tell him we got lost. We went for a walk and we got lost. So they go to this embassy. They don't have their passports. He took their passports. They go in. They let them in. She sits with a woman. And she tells the woman, I'm so glad to meet you. I'm so glad that you let us in here. We're trying to get back home to America. And the woman abruptly interrupts her. Now, again, the book, the movie. And the woman says, what are you talking about? And she says, we're Americans. We're trying to get back home to America. And she says, that might well be. But you are in Iran now. And she says, no, but we're Americans. We're not Iranians. And she says, are you married to an Iranian man? And Betty says, yes. And she says, since you are married to an Iranian man, you automatically become an Iranian citizen. And she says, no, we're Americans. He took our passports. And she says to her, Mrs. Mahmoudi, whenever Americans marry Iranian men, when they come to the country, they are automatically Iranian citizens. The children go to the man in the divorce. And at this point, Betty is in a fog. She can't believe it. This woman can't help her. And she's like, I can't go back to my husband. He has me prisoner in this house. She says, Miss Mahmoudi, there's nothing we can do for you. If you need to call me and you need to try to make phone calls to the States, we could try to help you there. But she said these words. She said, there are numerous other American women in this country who are in the same conditions. And so she ends up going back home. And when she walks through that door, again, he flipped out on her, right? Grabs the daughter. He starts to smack her and told her, if you ever do that again, I'm going to kill you. Now, remember, he's doing all of this in front of the daughter, okay? And so she is trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. A long story short, she decides that she is going to create a way for him to begin to trust her again. And at one point, they didn't have any food in the house. He sends her out to go get food on her own. She couldn't take the daughter. He said, you leave Matab here. You take Mamal's daughter, because at this point they were living in Mamal's house. So he took the little daughter. Now she's in the marketplace, in the bazaar, and she's trying to find money. She's trying to find coins to call that lady. But so she's asking in the stores, and one of the store vendors notices that she looked American. So he tells her, come on in. And he says, are you from America? And she says, yes. He says, you need to use the phone? So he allows her to use the phone in the store. And he could overhear the conversation with this woman. And, they're going back and forth. And, I think it's at this point that the woman says, listen, Betty, there's a solution. I think it's at this point that there's a solution. All you have to do is divorce him. And so she says, if I divorce him, will he let us leave? And she says, he won't let your daughter leave. And she says, I can't leave her here. And she's like, I'm not going to leave her. This is where we get the title, not without my daughter. Right? So she hangs up the phone, and that man says, if you ever need to use the phone, you come back here. So at another point in time, they're in the bazaar and they're shopping again, and she's actually with the wife of Mamal, and they're shopping, and that store clerk sees her, and he tries to get her attention. He tries. So she ends up disappearing from the woman and goes into the store, and he says, somebody is here to see you. I need you to come stay here. And she says, I can't stay. They're watching me. She needs to see you now. So a woman comes from the back and brings her to the back and says, do you realize that you're trying to get out of this country is very dangerous, right? You could be executed. And she says, listen, I don't have time for this. I got to go. So the woman says, no. Here is my brother's phone number. My brother helps people get out of situations like yours. Memorize this number. Do not keep it. Call him. He's here on certain days, and I forget the days that they said. Okay? So she memorizes the number. Now, these are two Iranian people. So there is a community of Iranians who are trying to help, who see the injustice that is going on with this family and with this woman. Okay? And so the story, I mean, just gets I mean, the book gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And so, at certain points, again, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, one minute he's nice, the next minute he's mean, one minute he's nice, the next minute, excuse me, he's just ornery. And so at a certain point, she gets him to trust her. And she is talking with her father, who, by the way, is dying of cancer in America. And he had kept them from talking. But for some reason, now he's practicing medicine. He's in his office. She's talking. He comes to her and he tells her, tell your father that you're coming to see him. I think she was talking to the mother. So he says, tell your mom you're going to go see your father. So she's elated, right? But there's a sinister plan behind this. This didn't just come out of nowhere. There's a plan behind this. What he wants her to do is to go back to America and liquidate all her assets and bring them back here. Now, this man that she's working with, who's trying to get her out of the country, he had set a date. He set a way for her to get out, but then that changed because it would have been too dangerous. So he's trying to figure out another way. They go home, they're having dinner, and Betty asks Moody, so I could take Matab with me to see my father, right? He says, no, you can't. She has school. And she's like, I can't go without, if he dies, she doesn't see her grandfather. And he gets mad and he's like, you're going to get on that plane. And he gives her this date. And she's like, what do you mean? What date? And he tells her, I already got it cleared. You're leaving. So she ends up calling the guy that's trying to get her out the country. And he tells her, Betty, don't get on that plane. Whatever you do, he's not going to let you back in the country. And he said, his family are more fanatical than most. It is not uncommon for 12-year-old girls to be married off. You will never see your daughter again. Don't get on that plane. And she says, my father's dying. And they're at a standstill. So there's a situation where they're at the house. It's the night before, the day before she's supposed to get on that plane. And Moody gets a call from the hospital because of the war. An emergency happens, and he's called to the hospital. He says, tell your father I said, I'm so sorry what he's going through. I'll see you when you get back. And the husband leaves the house. Now Betty has a chance. She says, Matab, get your stuff, get your clothes, let's get together. We're going to go buy some gifts for my father, she tells the family. And she takes Matab and they go to the store. Remember, he started to trust her, but then he didn't trust her, but he's not there. So now she's out and she ain't coming back. She runs to the phone and she calls the man that's meant to help her. And she says to him, we got to go now. I can't go back to the house. We got to go now. This is it. If I go back and he puts me on that plane, I'll never see my daughter again. So he tells her, I need you to go to this safe house. Meet me there. She gets into a cab. She goes, she meets. It's night. She meets at a safe house. The sister is there, the sister of the man helping her. And she tells him, she tells her, call your husband and stall him. Tell him you want to meet with a lawyer tomorrow. okay, and tell him where you want to meet. My brother needs you to stall him. If you stay in Tehran, they're going to find you. So she calls. All the family's at the house. She's calling. She's talking. She said, no, I'm going to meet with you tomorrow with the lawyer. He's telling her, bring my daughter back. Boom, boom, boom. She hangs up the phone. The brother comes. He says, let's go. The way that you're going to get out of here, you're going to go through checkpoints. And I have these men that are going to be taking you through different checkpoints. And you're going to have to go through the mountains. They're going to lead you every step of the way. I hope that you make it back to your country. And she gives him a hug. They get in that car and they start their journey, her and her daughter. And they go through these journeys as they're traveling through the checkpoints. And part of it was on horseback. Part of it was in jeeps. Part of it was in, station wagons, hiding. And they get to a certain checkpoint where there is a man with another man who is helping them, and they have to get them on horseback. Now, according to the book and according to Matab's testimony, they were in horrendous conditions in those mountains, right? They were in horrendous conditions. It was cold. It was windy. It was some snow. It was just horrendous conditions. And the long story short is at a certain point, the main guide that was guiding them through had Betty on a horse. He had Matab on a horse. And they finally get to this place. And he gets off the horse and he points to the ground and he says to her, Turkey, Turkey. And what she needed to get to was the American embassy, okay, the United States embassy in Turkey. And so from that point on, she had to walk. Now, the movie shows her walking, getting there, and then seeing the flag. The book tells a whole different story because they get there and for some odd reason, they get to a hotel and the hotel people won't let them stay there. And they can't be on the streets because they don't have passports. Okay, so they would have got sent either back to Iran or they would have got detained in Turkey. So, I mean, it was an up and down situation where finally they made it to the American interest section of the embassy in Turkey. And they were on a plane to I believe they went on a plane. They put them on a plane to Switzerland. And then they finally made it back to their family in America. But Moody vowed that he was not going to stop looking for them. And the book shows this. And in fact, Matab wrote a book called My Name is Matab. And she wrote this book. And she talks about how he found them numerous times. And they had to literally pack up their bags and go hide somewhere else. They had to move all the time, right? Here's what's interesting about this whole story. There was I believe it was some UK reporters, and you can actually find this on YouTube. And I think they did a 6-part series interviewing the real Moody, the real father. And the title of the series was Without My Daughter. And they interviewed him. And he denied the whole thing ever happened. They interviewed some of the family members and friends from Iran, and they denied that any of this happened. He gets on the phone in the documentary, and he actually found the phone number. He found the daughter's email from college, and he's emailing her. He's leaving messages. And one of the phone messages was when he calls, Betty, the wife, picked up on an answering machine, and he recognized the voice. And that's how they knew he found them, right? And when he hung up on this documentary, he said that was Betty's voice. So Matab was very clear. I don't want to see my father. Now, she got word of the fact that he was saying none of this happened. Now, it wasn't in this documentary that she talks about this. She talks about this in other interviews because she knows about the documentary. And she said, there's only one problem with his premise that this never happened. I was there. I saw what he did to me and my mother. I know what we went through going through those mountains. So he could say that never happened. He never did those things, all he wants. Now, for the record, Matab did forgive her father. Unfortunately, he passed away. And they never, ever saw each other again. His desire was to meet her somewhere in Europe, but she did not feel safe or comfortable. So that never happened. So he ended up passing away. And, Matab, Betty passed away, but Matab is still alive. Her name is Matab Mahmoudi. And you can see her story. She did an amazing story on the 700 Club. She did numerous interviews, and she wrote a book, which I have, called My Name is Matab. And, in the book, she also talks about this interview and the fact that the problem is I was there. I know what happened and I know what he did. And so, man, this story, lends to the beauty of community, the beauty of these Iranian people who decided that they were not going to allow this to take place. They were going to help this family get back home. Okay, and what's funny is that as time went on, Betty found out that there were numerous American women being held in Iran against their will. Now, what's important to understand is that this is what Betty said, and Betty said, in America, Moody never behaved this way. He never acted this way. It was only when he went home. Because had he acted this way in America, she said, my sons would have it would have been on. My sons would have handled him. But also he would have went to jail. He would have been arrested. Okay? So, listen, it is unfortunate that Matab could not meet back up with her father. But what I take from this story is the story of tenacity, that they were going to escape. They were going to get out one way or another. Now, keep this in mind. They were never the same again. Matab is not the same girl. She's, when you go through that kind of trauma, they've never been the same again. But it was because of the helpfulness of these Iranian people who kept telling Betty, listen, please don't judge this situation and judge my country as everyone being like this, because they are not. And she knew that. She knew that, right? She was clear about that. Okay, so again, this was not an attempt to paint a picture about Iran and the Iranian people. Those are some of the most beautiful, hospitable people on the planet Earth. Unfortunately, um, unfortunately, in that society, there are zealots, and again, it is not the majority. It is it's really a minority that are the zealots that follow the letter of the law. And unfortunately, Moody, he missed out. He lost. He lost his family. He lost his daughter. And, from what we understand, he died trying to find, really, he didn't want anything to do with Betty. He really just wanted to see his daughter, Matab. Now, I can't speak to whether, I won't speak to that. I have two daughters. I won't speak to that because as a father, I could only imagine what he went through, not being able to see his little girl. I understand that. But from what Matab says, is that he made his bed and he made his decision. And he decided for that to happen. And that's why he will never see us again. So Not Without My Daughter is, again, a story of heartbreak, a story of how we can be so dedicated to a cause that we miss what's really important, and that is family. No doubt about it, his family was Iranian, but he made a vow to his wife and his child to protect them. So again, we all have these opportunities to make decisions, okay? And personally, I thank God that they were able to escape and live a semi-normal life. But I really thank God for the people that helped them to escape from the country, to live their lives and see their father, their grandfather, before he passed away, which was a beautiful, beautiful thing. My prayer is that they all would have been able to be together, but that wasn't the situation. But she was determined to not leave that country without her daughter. And listen, man, listen. Let's end this on a note that says, there's always going to be people that tell you what you can't do, what's impossible, what can't happen. And if anything is true, it's anything is possible. In fact, this is the picture of that is Betty and that is Matab. And so a fantastic story. I encourage you. I left a lot out just because of time, but I encourage you, read the book, Not Without My Daughter, and then read Matab's story. My name is Matab. Okay. I pray this story inspired you to think beyond what people tell you can and cannot happen, and also to realize that there are still good people in this world. We look at this world and it's crazy. We see the war right now, Israel and Iran. It's crazy, right? I'm not blaming nobody. I'm just saying this is a reality. But there are still good people in this world that are willing to go to bat, that are willing. These people could have been killed for doing what they did, but they were willing to do what they did to help another human being that was not of their race, that was not Iranian, that were Americans, and that they were told, you're supposed to hate Americans. One of the things that I forgot to mention is that at a certain point, they actually made Matab start going to school in Iran, and she did not want to go, right? This was a culture shock for her. And what they were making her chant in the school was death to America. And she was chanting this. They would have to go pick her up because she would spend the whole day crying in school. Eventually she got used to it because some of the mothers at the school, started to, again, there were other American children at these schools. So she wasn't the only one, but it was a culture shock. She didn't want to be left alone, but she was left alone. And there's a lot to it. But again, the movie Not Without My Daughter and the book is fantastic. Is fantastic, man. Let's see what the chat is saying. Let's see what the chat is saying. I see Silos in the building. Let me see who's in the building. I'm gonna go all the way up and just see who's in the building tonight. I see Be Active, Mr. Stepper, JG. Let me see if anybody had any comments on what I shared tonight. Yeah, the book is always better. Yeah, Relias, he says, I hope this is not an anti-Iran, pro-Israel thing going on, Dr. Absolutely not, brother. And I appreciate you saying that. Absolutely not. No. This was a story about a family, a specific family, not a specific group of people, but a specific family. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that. Let me see anybody else. Just got here. What's your opinion on current events? Well, yeah, JG says, laugh out loud. He tricked her, got her over there, and made her a slave. Yeah, JG, I don't know why that would be something that you find impossible to believe. According to the daughter, who was the eyewitness to this, that's exactly what he did. And that's exactly what he did. Okay? That was, that's what he did. Okay? Am I saying that's what they all do? No. That's what he did. Okay? Dep Rocker says, I saw that movie. Silos Conga says, JG, I took a break, but soon I will revisit to see if any progress has been made. Not saying I'm advanced. I just like to, okay. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Let me see. Buana says, where was the imams? The imams were, again, they were under the leadership of the Ayatollah Khomeini. And so he was the leader, the religious cleric of the country. So his word was bond, right? So Def Rocker says she didn't do her homework before she married that dude. No, I think she did. I think she, again, she knew he was a successful doctor. She knew he was Iranian. I mean, he was charming. The point is that he never acted that way in America. He could not. He could not. He would have been arrested. It just wouldn't have been, that thing. Okay. Let me see. Let's see. Just want to see if anybody else is saying anything. But yeah, guys. So anyway, I really just wanted to share that story, man. I think it's an amazing story, but it also shows us the human condition, right? It shows us the human condition. That if you're determined to do something, you're gonna do it, whether that's right, what he did, or whether that's what the wife did. I'm getting out of here. I'm gonna escape, right? So yeah, it's a crazy story. I remember somebody telling me about this story, and they told me you need to go watch the movie. I went to the movie store. I remember this. and I grabbed the VHS tape. This is when VHSs were out. I grabbed the VHS tape. I went home. I popped it in. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I was yelling and screaming at that TV the majority of the movie because I was just so irate that this happened, that he could just get away with doing that, right? Um, you know, yeah, you know what I mean. But yo, thank you guys for tuning in tonight, man. Share this, share this story, man. This is a story. It's not a gloom story. It's a story of hope. It's a story that anything is possible, right? It's a story that there are still good people in the world that fight for what is right. That's the story. Okay. Next live we're going to be talking about the Ghetto Brothers, and we're going to talk about the Ghetto Brothers story. And again, man, please hit that thumbs up. Share this content. If you're not a channel member, become a channel member for those exclusives. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. All it takes is hitting that sub button, joining, hitting the notification bell. And don't forget, if you can at all, in any way, super chat, super thanks, PayPal. All you got to do is look at the link section in my videos, in the about section, and you will see the links. If you feel so led, please consider supporting the channel as we are trying to secure a location to create a bona fide studio. We want to create a podcast studio that's going to take lighting, that's going to take the proper cameras, that's going to take the proper mics, and that's going to take a space, right? So all of that has to be paid for, of course. I'm going to be chipping in and doing what I can. I have some cameras that I can use right now, my phone being one of them, my GoPro being another one. I have a computer, so the computer is not the issue. It's really the lights, the layout. We want to make the background look tight. We want this to be an official Urban Exegesis Studio. That's why we call it Urban Exegesis Studios. So anything that you could do, the best way to help get that to me so I could start putting this towards stuff and buying stuff would be PayPal. Okay, so if you would do me a favor, and if you would just go to the PayPal link in the abouts and the links on the channel, and you could consider giving a one-time donation. But again, all of it helps. All of it helps. I'm so grateful for all of you guys. Thank you for tuning in. We got to get the channel to the next level. We want to see more and more subscribers. But also what we're noticing is that subscribers subscribe, but we almost have 3,000 subscribers, but that doesn't mean that 3,000 people watch and watch through the whole video. So we want to encourage people to watch the videos and then share them. Like, this needs to be shared with as many people that we can. Don't forget the Latin Breakdown documentary, Hip Hop's Latino Connection. Don't forget, Hip Hop is from the Bronx, that first documentary that we did. Don't forget the channel content. All right, it's all there. It's all educational. Shout out to my regulars. Shout out to those who couldn't make it tonight. Grace and peace. I love you guys. I love you guys. We'll talk soon. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.